Turn 1 Soul Ring.
Ainsley will be thrilled.
That's all I want in this world, is for Ainsley to be thrilled.
That's all I ever want.
Yeah.
All right, we're just going to get started here. Hello, everyone. This is Turn 1 Soul Ring. I'm Kevin.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Riley.
Riley's joining us again as guest host. And today on the show, we're going to be starting part 1 of a 2-part series reviewing the new cards in the upcoming Commander 2020 set. And we don't really have time for news today, so we're just going to get right to the cards. But before we do that, Eric, how can listeners get in touch with us if they're so inclined?
They can definitely find us on Instagram at Turn1SoulRing the podcast. You can also find us at Turn1SoulRing the podcast at gmail.com. Message us directly, let us know what you think, ask us questions. And on YouTube by searching Turn 1 Soul Ring the podcast. And make sure to write the podcast in the search.
So I didn't realize this, but Commander 2020's release has also been delayed until May 15th in many countries, the ones we had talked about a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
I also didn't notice that.
Yeah, but, you know, who knows when we'll end up even getting the decks to play with, or even be able to get together and play in the same room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows when I'll see your beautiful faces again.
Oh.
It's been too long.
It has been, though. I miss Magic.
Me too. I do miss my double sleeved cards, just like laying them down, tutoring through my deck. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's going to be hard to shuffle a double sleeve commander deck after all this is over because I haven't played in so long.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be fumbling all over the place.
Losing that muscle memory.
Yeah, absolutely. But now that that's out of the way, let's move right on to the new cards from the first deck we're going to talk about today, which is Ruthless Regiment, and that is the Mardu deck? Yeah, it's the Mardu deck.
Mardu humans.
Mardu humans. So we're going to start off with the main commander, the face commander of the deck, which is Jarina Kudrow. She is 1 and Mardu, so a red, a white, and a black for a legendary creature, human soldier, 3/3. When Jarina Kudrow enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. Other humans you control get +2/+0.
I think this is pretty good since you get extra value if she's been dying and you're recasting her.
Yeah. I mean, you know, these aren't the colors that can ramp exceptionally well. Black can, but it's usually dependent on more of a main black strategy.
Yeah.
So casting her multiple times could get too expensive. So I don't love that aspect of it, but you know,
I mean, you could blink her. Like, she does care about entering the battlefield and the amount of times you cast. So as long as you've cast her once, at least you're getting a 1/1, or I guess a 3/1 essentially out of it.
Right.
But even that, it just kind of seems pretty medium and not overly impressive for a Mardu commander.
Yeah, I think I know which deck won't be chosen.
That's the same thought I had when I was looking at these decks.
Oh, we should have rolled for turn order.
Yeah.
Well, we're going again.
Okay.
Next up is Kelseen the Plague. So we got red, white, black. And it's a 2/2 human assassin with vigilance and haste. Kelseen the Plague gets +1/+1 for each experience counter you have. And you can tap Kelseen, deals 1 damage to target creature you don't control. When that creature dies this turn, you get an experience counter.
I like this guy a little bit better. He seems like more of a fun build around, like if you did like a Death Touch Pinger tribal kind of deck.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Give him Death Touch or have like a host of other creatures that have a similar type of ability. And just, you know, I don't really know why they want to make him bigger. Like, I didn't really understand that. Like, maybe if they scaled it so that he did more damage, the more experience counters he had, I think that would be kind of cool. But, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, he does do more damage the more experience counters he has if he's attacking. And so, like, the great thing about this is if you wanted to go that kind of route, like a Voltron route, you know, the best part about this is that when he changes zones and goes back to the command zone, if he dies, those experience counters stay static, and he comes back and he has haste, so you're just swinging for the fences every time, which is really nice if you want to take that route.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's nice that the thing you're doing to make him grow doesn't go away, so it's not like he's gaining +1/+1 counters or something that would actually go away. So
yeah,
and it's cool to see them bring experience counters back in a way. So
yeah.
All right. Well, next up, we've got a set of partner commanders. So we've got Trin, Champion of Freedom. She's 3 and a white for a human soldier, 3/3. She has partner with Sylvar, Devourer of the Free. And at the beginning of your end step, if you attack this turn, you create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. So already I like her a little bit better than Jarina, just based on the fact that this is triggering every turn. You don't really have to jump through too many hoops to do so.
Yeah.
So similar effect. It's still a 3/3 body for 4, which is nothing special. But at the very least, she partners with Sylvar. And Sylvar, Devourer of the Free, is 3 black-red for a cat nightmare. He's got partner with Trin, Champion of Freedom, Menace, sacrifice a human, put a +1/+1 counter on Sylvar, Devourer of the Free, and it gains indestructible until end of turn, and it's a 4/2. So 4/2, medium. It's got Menace, so a little bit of evasion. But the nice thing about Sylvar is if you're building around this kind of human aristocrat style deck, you've got a free sack outlet there for your humans. So I think Sylvar is pretty spicy.
Yeah, and even just the ability to save it from a board wipe by sacrificing a human, even a human creature token, is just really powerful. Just get you out of that situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the main deck, and first up we have Bonder's Ornament, and this is in all 5 of the decks. It's 3 mana for an artifact. It taps for 1 mana of any color, and you can pay for and to tap it. Each player who controls a permanent named Bonder's Ornament draws a card.
So this is a neat little, game for everybody, because if everybody keeps these in the decks, if you play against each other with these cards, it's kind of fun, because then everybody will end up drawing a card from using the ability.
Yeah, I do like the multiplayer flavor of this card, and 4 mana seems like a lot to draw a card, but if you can make a deal with an opponent that controls one of these, you can factor that into the activation cost, like the value of that deal, versus paying the 4 mana. So I like that. I don't know how long it'll stay in the deck, but it's a cool idea.
It's a cool idea, but again, I would probably take it out rather soon.
Yeah, it's not the worst 3 mana rock I've seen. I've definitely seen worse, but at least it's repeatable, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah. All right. So next up, we have Call the Coppercoats. It's 2 of anything and a white for an instant. It has Strive, so this spell costs 1 and a white more to cast for each target beyond the first, and you may choose any number of target opponents. Create X 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens, where X is the number of creatures those opponents control.
So if you keep the main commander, the face commander of this deck, it's trying to go wide with humans, which is exactly what Call the Coppercoats helps you do, especially if you have the mana to strive for it. But you're sort of just creating a situation where you're at parity with your opponents. And
also,
I don't know if I like that.
This is only for your opponents, right?
Yeah. Target opponents.
Like, it's fairly efficient, assuming your opponents have some form of board state. It's a pretty efficient way of getting a bunch of creatures. And if you are in like a Sylvar, sacrifice human aristocrats deck, then it might not be a bad include.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Fireflux Squad. So for 3 and a red, you get a human soldier, 4/3, with haste. And it says, whenever Fireflux Squad attacks, you may exile another target attacking creature you control. And if you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So honestly, you could probably build your deck in a way where you're actually trading up in value. Like if you want to do something with like a dragon fodder make a bunch of goblin tokens kind of theme,
right.
and then have only creatures with CMC 4 or more in your deck, and you're just trading up all the time using the tokens that you're generating. Maybe that's a spicy way of building with it. But overall, I'm not... I mean, that seems pretty medium at best if you get Fireflux Squad to work. Seems like a pretty medium payoff for a 4/3 with haste.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you do have access to top deck manipulation in the format, and you don't have to sacrifice the creature that you cheat into play, which is really nice. But I do agree that it's pretty mediocre.
It's a few hoops that you'd have to jump through to make it.
To make it really work for you. Yeah, absolutely.
But hey, at least it's like an attack trigger, not a damage trigger.
That's true.
Absolutely.
You can always appreciate a good attack trigger.
Next up, we have Flawless Maneuver. It's 2 and a white for an instant. If you control a commander, you may cast the spell without paying its mana cost, and creatures you control gain indestructible. There's a cycle of these cards across the 5 decks this year, and they're all playable, but they aren't free spells. And what I mean by that is when we talk about free spells, you have to factor in the additional costs to cast those spells without paying their mana cost. They're free in terms of paying mana for them. So with these cards, you have to factor in the cost of getting your commander onto the battlefield or taking control of an opponent's commander, because this is just concerned with controlling a commander. So with all free spell cards throughout Magic's history, I'd say that the Pact cycle is the most free, because at the time you cast them, you don't need to meet any other requirements. You do have to, at the next upkeep, you have to pay a cost or you lose, but those I think are truly free. Like with Force of Will, you have to discard a card, or Foil, you have to discard a card. And these, you have to have your commander on the battlefield, so it's not the same type of downside. But yeah, I think these cards are amazing. They're great, but there are going to be times where somebody will remove your commander, or you just don't have your commander on the battlefield and you aren't able to cast these for free and you're tapped out. But even 3 mana for these spells, and they're all 3 mana, is not a bad rate, especially for the better ones like the white and blue ones.
Yeah, I've played Rootborn defenses, and that's the same converted mana cost as Flawless Maneuver. So I would easily see replacing Rootborn defenses with Flawless Maneuver here.
Yeah, it is just just a nice upside. But yeah, like I said, I think it's important to always factor the other costs into the spells that we think of as being free.
Sure.
Of course, once we get our commander out, we're trying to build a board, and this is the perfect card. This is so good. You're just I'm immune to a board wipe.
Yeah. Especially in white.
Yeah. All right, so next up we have the Frontier Warmonger, which is 3 of anything in a red for a 4/4 human warrior. Whenever one or more creatures attack one of your opponents or a planeswalker they control, those creatures gain menace until end of turn. I think this card's pretty dang good for really being able to just get in at your opponents fast, because it's tough to block menace.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's quite a few cards in this set across the 5 decks that create this kind of chaos and want you to get involved in combat, which I'm a huge fan of, and this card does just that.
Yeah, I love incentivizing other people to attack my opponents.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Martial Impetus. So another cycle. We've seen a cycle like this before in the past, like an enchantment aura that you basically put on other people's creatures. But Martial Impetus, for 2 and a white, you get an enchant creature aura. What the enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and is goaded. So being goaded means it attacks each combat if able, and attacks a player other than you if able. And whenever an enchanted creature attacks, each other creature that's attacking one of your opponents gets +1/+1 until end of turn.
Yeah, love to see the goad mechanic coming back.
Yeah, goad is great because not only do they not attack you, but they have to attack. So if that's a creature that's either a big threat for the table, well, you make it a big threat for everybody else except for you. Or if it's something you want to get rid of, it's got to attack. It's likely going to trade poorly. So it's kind of a pseudo removal spell.
Yeah,
totally. And then this one's pretty interesting as well, because I think like with his deck, you may even find yourself in some situations where you put this on one of your own creatures to pump all of your humans.
Yeah, if you want to go wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that in a edge case.
Next up, we have Molten Echoes. It's 2 and 2 red for an enchantment. As Molten Echoes enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever a non-token creature of the chosen type enters the battlefield under your control, create a token that's a copy of that creature. That token gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. So this, opens you up to all kinds of combo potential in any tribal deck.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In Commander, where you just want to have an additional copy of a card to get a combo going, or it's just that this card seems value. Just like really value centric. Yeah
Whatever you're playing, you are getting another copy of. So if you even have like mana brooks and stuff, you would be able to tap for mana right away. And then I don't know if you have some sort of weird creature, you can just anyways swing with it if you have nothing else to do with it.
Yeah, it seems good.
Alrighty, so next we have the Parasitic Impetus, which is 2 of anything in a black for a aura for enchant creature. Enchant creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. And so whenever enchanted creature attacks, its controller loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So I quite like this one actually, because now you're making a creature of your opponent's attack some of the other opponents, not you, and then you are also making them lose life and you gain life off of it.
Yeah, I think this whole cycle kind of does something you want it to do.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Sanctuary Blade. So for 2 generic mana, we've got an artifact equipment. It says, as Sanctuary Blade becomes attached to a creature, choose a color. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has protection from the last chosen color, and has equipped for 3. So I'm not a big fan of the 3 equipped cost, but I do like that the protection changes based on what you want. So might be a good include in like a Voltron strategy if you're finished at killing one person and you want to change the protection to somebody else to start attacking them.
You do need to have another creature on the battlefield though to like swap it and then swap it back.
Yeah.
Which is 6 mana.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a high cost for that 3 equipped cost, but at least a little bit flexible.
Yeah, I'd rather be in white and just use Flickering Ward for 2 mana.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, easy.
And not need another creature, but that's just me.
But I mean, if you are in green, you've got all the mana anyway, so.
Yeah, that's true. You sure do. Next up, we have Shiny Impetus. It's 2 and a red for an aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, you create a treasure token. This is just like, this kind of reminds me of Opulent.
Yeah, Curse of Opulence.
Curse of Opulence, yeah. Because it's just, you're forcing an attack and you're getting ramp. Curse of Opulence doesn't force attacks, but still it makes opponents want to attack the player that's being cursed with it. So
yeah,
and it's cool they're giving red these cards that are like some sort of ramp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, next up we have the Species Specialist. So it's 2 of anything and 2 black for a 2/3 human warrior. As the Species Specialist enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever a creature of the chosen type dies, you may draw a card. So that is also like the whole board. Whatever type you choose, even if your opponents have those creatures and they die, you do get to draw cards.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then if you are doing like a Human's Aristocrat things, this can really just end up making you draw a lot of cards.
Yeah, and just in any tribal deck that you're sacrificing a lot of the chosen creature type, you're going to get a ton of value off of this no matter where you put it, even if it isn't a human or warrior tribal deck. Even though that's all I play.
Yeah. Also, the flavor text is good with, I don't have anything against Snapjacks, I'm just more of a dog person.
Oh, no, you just get out. No. You know what? Hot take from Kevin here. I like cats are better. That's it.
Yep. You just divided our audience.
I did, yeah. I'm sorry, guys.
Right there.
No,
I can feel our listenership slipping away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, how dare you? All right, next up we've got Titan Hunter. So for 4 and a black, we've got a human warrior 4/5. At the beginning of each player's end step, if no creatures died this turn, Titan Hunter deals 4 damage to that player, and you can pay 1 and a black and sacrifice a creature to gain 4 life. I don't know. I'm not into it.
It just seems really slow, right? It puts a person on a 10-turn clock.
Yeah. I don't know. It might swing the game in your favor, but like it also could just be a 5-mana dork that does nothing.
And I think the thing is with this deck out of the box, right? And if you play with Jarina as your main commander, the idea is that you're getting a ton of bodies on the board and you're swinging. So doing 4 damage if no creatures died, which is a little bit counter to a going wide and attacking strategy, because you're presumably going to have some blocks and opponent's creatures will die. But let's say they don't. 4 damage is a little bit... I guess what I'm saying is that dealing 4 damage to an opponent is a little bit more substantial when you're playing an aggro deck. But aggro decks in Commander are historically not bad, but they just don't win as
They just
often.
don't have a lot of distance they can go, right? They
No,
don't have a
of
long
course not.
game.
Exactly. But this is like, if it's your turn and you attack, you want a creature to die because then you don't lose the 4 damage.
Yeah, and if you don't have favorable if you don't have a favorable combat scenario against any of your opponents, you can just pay the 2 to sacrifice a creature and gain life instead of lose it.
Yeah.
I do really like the art though, and the thing that she's toting, which is like a chainsaw sword thing. It's almost like, kind of reminds me of Cloud Sword from Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
A little bit.
This photo looks very Monster Hunter like.
Yeah, I was about
Yep.
to say that. Yeah, that chainsaw sword is very Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, next.
Alrighty.
Oh, is it your turn, Eric?
I think it's Kevin's.
No, it's Kevin.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
It's like when
Kevin got it this
it's like
time.
when somebody else spills a drink at a party. And I'm like, no, didn't spill a drink. Nice fuck up. Next up, we have Verge Rangers. They are 2 and a white for a human scout, 3/3 with first strike. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. As long as an opponent controls more lands than you, you may play lands from the top of your library.
This is pretty neat.
It is, yeah, it is pretty sweet, and it does maintain White's place in the color pie when it comes to mana ramp, because you have to have fewer lands than an opponent. And in Commander, that's not always... It's often not just one player, like the person that's very far ahead. This could bring you up to parity with an opponent that you need to work together with to take out Riley, who's probably winning the game at that point. But it's too late because he's playing Sultai, so he just has all the value.
Yeah.
I'm not sour about the last league. Let's talk about these cards.
It's basically a Courser in white. And I mean, you're in white, so you're inevitably going to have less lands than other people. So.
Oh, yeah, got him.
But honestly,
the other nice thing about
it's card advantage. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And compared to Courser, you don't have to show your opponents what cards on top. You're the only one who knows.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this card a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Very spicy. Okay, so let's move on to the new cards that were printed in Ikoria that are not in this. They are in this set, but they're also brand new for Ikoria.
Cool. Bastion of Remembrance, which is 2 of anything and a black. Enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you get a 1/1 human soldier, and whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses life and you gain life.
Yeah, this seems a lot more impactful in the context of this deck than when I was thinking about it just in the ether.
Totally. Because you will be having like a lot of human tokens, as we can see. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. All right, next up, we've got Dire Tactics, another one that we've covered in our Ikoria set review. White and a black for an instant. It says exile target creature. If you don't control a human, you lose life equal to that creature's toughness. Again, I love exiling creatures. I'll take it.
Oh yeah. Oh, we didn't. You know what we didn't do in our Ikoria set review?
What's that?
Read the flavor text on this card. I will preserve human life at all costs. I will stand alone against behemoths. Before I let them touch my city, I will hold the wall against behemoths. Oh, so good, man.
Good stuff.
Oh man. Okay, so next card. We have General's Enforcer. It is a white and a black for a human soldier, 2/3. Legendary humans you control have indestructible. Nice. And you can pay 2, a white and a black, to exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. And it's any graveyard, so you could, you don't gotta mess with your graveyard.
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah, so it's like,
what was that human that gave your commander +2/+2 and indestructible? Do you remember?
Was that from this set?
No, it was a few years ago.
It was like Commander. Was that from Commander 2017? Because that was when they had all those like commanders that you control gain whatever and a keyword ability.
Yeah, something like that.
I think that
was white, but it was like 2 and a white. Your commander gets +2/+2 and indestructible. That's what this reminds me of.
Yeah.
Is I mean your commander's most likely going to be a legendary creature, so and in this case,
yeah, so
it's the helm is a legendary human. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, if you have a legendary human, or if you have a human commander, this guy's a nice one to put beside it. But I do like how you can hit other people's graveyards, because then I can also kind of like, it's incidental graveyard hate, and you're getting a 1/1 out of it. So
it is a lot of mana, but it is a mana sink, right? You can do it multiple times, which is nice.
And then if somebody has a combo piece you really don't see, it might be worth it to even spend the 4 mana, even if there's other things you want to do.
That's what I've been telling people when they try to FaceTime me lately. I mean, like, you're someone I really want to don't see. So could you just go? And they get mad at me. You believe that? It's unbelievable.
How does that work?
I know. I told them the truth.
Yeah.
What do they want?
What the heck? All right, so next up we have the Sanctuary Lockdown, which is 2 of anything in a white for enchantment. Humans you control get +1/+1. And you can pay 2 mana to tap 2 untapped humans you control. Tap target creature and opponent controls.
Draneth gives no quarter to traders. Oh, yes. Fuck yeah.
The second ability is quite steep.
Yeah. I mean, you should really be looking at this as an anthem for humans.
Yeah.
I think the other ability, the activated ability, is just kind of a little bit of upside, but it definitely is pretty steep.
And I think this ability, like, this is a standard card. I think this second ability is better in sealed or limited than it is in Commander.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, you'd still have to focus on building with humans and tapping 2 creatures you control to tap one of their creatures and pay 2 mana. That's a downside. Yeah, it's not great.
I'm not going to first pick Sanctuary Lockdown.
I hope you don't.
Don't.
It's like, Kevin, why did you first pick that?
All right. Well, I think those are the cards for our Mardu Humans deck.
Yeah, Ruthless Regiment. Let's move on to Arcane Maelstrom.
Alrighty. So, leading the charge, we've got Calamax, the Stormsire. Yeah. So, Mr. Stormsire here costs 1 Intimer, so green, blue, red, for a legendary elemental dinosaur, 4/4. Whenever you cast your first instant spell, whenever you cast your first instant spell each turn, if Calamax the Stormsire is tapped, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. And whenever you copy an instant spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Calamax.
When I first looked at this card, I thought you could do some pretty dope instant-centric Voltron stuff with this guy. I feel like I've talked about Voltron a lot, but I'm going to keep doing it. And and he just keeps getting bigger every time you do it. That being said, he's not really specifically concerned with combat. It's just that he has to be tapped. So, you can do other things. You don't just have to do Voltron.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to keep him back, like there's a couple lands out there that allow you to tap a creature you control to produce a color of any type. So you can just do things like that.
Yeah, and there are rocks that let you do that as well, to like filter colored mana.
Yep.
But yeah, because like you're tapping him, and then you're also getting the mana by tapping him. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's also really cool because it's each turn. It's not just your turn.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see on cards, everybody.
And I mean, it's an instant. You can cast it during your opponent's turn as well. So have at her.
Which is what you want to be doing. Don't cast instants during your main phase. That could be on our the other T-shirt.
Don't cast instants on your main phase.
Next up, we have the first secondary commander in this deck. It's Xyrus, the Writhing Storm. And
this card looks so cool.
It does look really, really... Art on this looks really, really cool. Yeah. It's 2, a green, a blue, and a red for a legendary creature, Snake Leviathan. For a 3/5 with flying, whenever an opponent draws a card except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, create a 1/1 green snake creature token. Whenever Xyrus, the Writhing Storm, deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each draw that many cards. So if this is your commander, you're going to have a pretty slithery snake board.
Yeah, it's got to be one of my favorites.
This is a really interesting one because obviously when you're attacking, some people may even be like, I'll let your commander through so that we can draw 3 cards, you know?
Yeah, let's get slithery about this. Let's get politically slithery.
And then you berserk and Teamer Battle Rage and just knock them out.
Oh boy, you're done.
Yeah, this guy looks really fun.
Yeah, and especially also like the first ability is just whenever an opponent draws a card. So if you do hit somebody and you're drawing 3 more, that's 3 snakes.
Yeah, except for the first one they draw in each of the draw steps. So so it does consider draw steps. So on your turn, you're going to draw 3 off of that. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
And just to take a step back to what Riley said about Berserk, like I think Berserk was reprinted in Conspiracy Take the Crown, so it's kind of crept back up in the years since that set was released. So I think it's like probably closer to a $20 card. But that is a great card. It's a great combat trick in green where you can just one-shot an opponent, and it doesn't even have to be your creature. It can be anybody's creature. Like you can just control combat in that way and just take out an opponent, and it's very powerful and very underplayed in the Commander format.
Yeah, man.
Totally.
Yeah. So check it out.
All right, next up is the partners. So we have Haldan, Avid Arcanist, 2 of anything and a blue for a 1/4 human wizard. And he partners with Paco, Arcane Retriever. You may play non-creature cards from exile with fetch counters on them if you exiled them, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. Fetch counters, you say? How do you get those? We have
from the goodest.
We have Paco, the Arcane Retriever, 3 of anything and red and green for a 3/3 Elemental Hound. He partners with Haldan. He's got haste. Whenever Paco, Arcane Retriever, attacks, exile the top card of each player's library and put a fetch counter on each of them. Put a 1/1 counter on Paco for each non-creature card exiled this way.
I love the good boy. Yeah, I love the good boy flavor on Haldan and Paco. And these 2 cards seem like nothing but value. If I was the one getting this deck, I think I might just start with these 2 as the commanders.
Yeah.
Because what I love is that as long as the cards stay in exiled with a fetch counter on them, and you control Haldan, whether or not he's been cast 3 times or 5 times, whatever, you can cast those cards all game as long as he's on the battlefield.
Ooh, yeah.
And you don't have to worry about the mana color, which is fantastic. So, and like when Paco attacks and it has haste, you can almost think of it like when he attacks, you draw 4 cards. You're not always going to get all the cards because they have to be non-creature cards, but you're going to get some good stuff.
Yeah, these got to be my favorite partners out of the set.
Yeah. It's just so much card advantage.
Yeah, really fun.
Yeah.
And he's a good boy.
He is such a good boy. I know. I love a good Elemental Hound good boy.
Yeah, it is also play non-creature cards, so you can do the lands as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got a little mana ramp in there.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, moving on to some new cards in this set. We've got. Well, I guess it looks like Bonder's Ornament has already been covered, so we're moving on to
we're good.
Curious
We
Herd.
can just move right past it.
Move right on past it.
Yeah.
Curious Herd, 3 and a green for an instant, says choose target opponent. You create X 3/3 green beast creature tokens, where X is the number of artifacts that player controls.
This kind of reminds me of Fresh Meat, which is the same mana cost. And with Fresh Meat, it's an instant, and you get to put X 3/3 green beast creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is equal to the number of creatures that you controlled that died this turn. So it's sort of like brings you back after a board wipe. But this is really great because it's a really fantastic combat trick. Because you don't have to choose the opponent that's attacking you, controlling, a ton of artifacts. You can choose a different opponent, create all those 3/3 beast creature tokens, and get favorable blocks to the opponent that is attacking you. Maybe the one that chose the Mardu deck. I don't know who's going to do that, but somebody will. And you just block all their creatures, and you're like, I'm doing fine.
Yeah, this is... I like how it's instant. This makes this card so good, I think.
Oh, absolutely. If it was a sorcery, it would be like a wet fart.
I also like the one that's on the far left. He's looking all derpy.
Oh yeah, he really is.
I mean, they're all kind of derpy. Look at them all.
Yeah, they are a little derpy. They're curious. Yeah,
good show.
Next up, we have a Decoy Gambit. Decoy Gambit is 2 and a blue for an instant. For each opponent, choose up to one target creature that player controls, then return that creature to its owner's hand unless its controller has you draw a card. Letting your opponents make decisions isn't really what you want to be doing, but the worst case scenario for this card is that you get to draw 3 cards for 3 mana at instant speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the way to look at it. Is it's like three mana, 3 cards.
Yeah, I have a feeling like it's just not going to do what you want it to do when you want it to do what you want it to do.
No, and that's why you have to think about it like, I'm going to draw, you have to baseline, I'm going to pay 3 and I'm going to draw 3 cards. That being said, you could also use it politically to it's like, hey, Riley, I'm going to let, if I target this thing, you can bounce it. I'm going to I'll bounce it for you, and then you can recast it. And then, whatever the other parameters of the deal are, so that you can recast it for an enter the battlefield trigger. So there's also that aspect of this card.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And I mean, I am putting together a list of a commander deck where basically the whole theme of the deck is giving my opponents choices.
That's fun.
So
that's cool.
This feels like it could slot in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should definitely put that
and
in.
if you get this deck, you'll probably take it out, so that's a freebie.
There you go.
All right, next up we have Deflecting Swat.
What?
Swat. So it's 2 of anything and a red for an instant. If you control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost. You may choose new targets for target spell or ability.
So another free card in this cycle of free cards. And this is always a powerful ability. It's very circumstantial, but this is a pretty underplayed ability, I gotta say.
Totally.
Yeah, I think it's spicy.
And yeah, it's really good. One thing I love to do with this is target player draws X cards and they target themselves, and you're like, I think I'll take those, please.
Or target player takes an extra turn. I think I'll take that extra turn, please.
That's best case scenario. So good.
All right. Next up, we've got Eon Frolicker. Hey, it's another otter. For 2 blue, we've got an elemental otter. It's a 5/5. It's got flying, and when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, target opponent takes an extra turn after this one. What? Why would you do that? Well, this is why. Until your next turn, you and planeswalkers you control gain protection from that player. So, you and planeswalkers you control can't be the target. You can't be dealt damage or enchanted by anything that player controls.
Yeah, this is another political card, and as soon as I saw this card, I thought about using Mindslaver on the opponent that I'm giving an extra turn to.
Yeah.
But, more seriously, you're probably going to use this to protect yourself from the targeted player so that you can win the game on the turn that you're casting Eon Frolicker, just to give yourself protection to do whatever you need to do to win.
Yeah, and it's until your next turn. So even the 2 turns that they get after you, they can't do anything to you. So
yeah, this is a really cool card. I like that they sort of gave it that downside, seemingly, but that's not really what they did.
Yeah, and you always just jam Stranglehold, and they skip their extra turn.
or you have Ugin's Nexus, and then you sacrifice it so you can get an extra turn.
Oh, that's pretty spicy.
That's a good one.
I like that.
Yeah, all this useless knowledge that we have, huh? All right, next up we have Glade Muse. It's 2 and a green for a 2/4 beast. Whenever a player casts a spell, if it's not their turn, that player draws a card. This is like kind of a, I don't know. What do you guys think about this card? I'm kind of feel kind of funny about it.
I think in the Instance Matter deck, this is definitely giving you more of an advantage over your opponents.
Oh, absolutely.
Symmetrical effects, always fair, right?
Yeah,
Always fair.
always be fair. Equality is what we're all about here at Turn 1 Sol Ring.
Other people may get some value off it, but then it'll also make them not want to destroy it, and then you're going to be getting the most value off of it. So.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's a good moose. Look at that moose.
It is. He's a good boy. Yeah.
It just says creature type is beast.
I know, but they don't have a moose creature type.
Yeah. Plus, you could put beast on a ton of creatures that don't say beast. They could put that on humans.
Yeah.
Cool. So next up, we have the Lavabrink Floodgates. I like this card. So this is 3 of anything and a red for an artifact, and you can tap it to add 2 red mana. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player may put a Doom counter on Lavabrink Floodgates or remove a Doom counter from it. Then if it has 3 or more Doom counters on it, sacrifice Lavabrink Floodgates. When you do, it deals 6 damage to each creature.
So I'm always sort of like, I sort of idealize these cards because I think about how much fun they'd be to play and hey, it gives me 2 mana. But then my opponents never do what I want them to do. And then it ruins my game. So I'm just a little sour about cards like this. And I've learned from being like, hey, let's have fun. And that's why I play the decks that I do.
Yeah, nobody wants to have fun when they play with you, Kevin.
I know they don't, because they look at my face and they're like, I can tell he doesn't want to have fun.
But I think you want to be playing this when you're like, oh, my board state is I don't care if it gets destroyed.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a little flavorful, a little spicy.
It's a little slithery, yeah.
Next up, we have Nascent Metamorph. So for 1 and a blue, we get a Shapeshifter 1/1. And it says, whenever Nascent Metamorph attacks or blocks, target opponent reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card. Nascent Metamorph becomes a copy of that card until end of turn. Then they put all cards revealed this way on the bottom of their library in random order. So this kind of reminds me of that red card that we were talking about in the past, one that exiles a creature when you attack, and it puts a creature from your library onto the battlefield.
Right, but this is this Narset Metamorph?
It just turns itself into whatever creature your opponent reveals.
Yeah, you're right. So this is an opponent's library instead of your library.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not huge into this.
It's very high variance.
Yeah, it's very high variance. You're not getting any ETB value off of it. You're not getting any attack triggers off of it because it's already attacked.
Yeah, the only way I could see this being good or beneficial is that opponents might not want to attack into it because it could turn into something that could block favorably.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It just seems like it's gonna flop more often than not.
Yeah, no, it seems like trash.
I can see so many more whiffs than good stuff.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't recommend keeping this in the deck.
It's more like a trash shifter.
No, boy.
Kevin recommends putting this in your deck.
Next up, we have Predatory Impetus, the green Impetus aura. It's 4 and a green for an aura enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3 and must be blocked if able and goaded. So you could give this thing Death Touch, and that could be pretty spicy. The creature Death Touch that you've put the impetus on is what I meant to say.
Yeah, this is definitely one to put on a big creature, because then it can also just like endlessly remove your opponent's creatures.
Yeah, it's gonna do some damage.
It'll do some damage, yeah.
Yeah. Looks fun.
Yeah.
Totally. Alright, next up we have the Psychic Impetus. It's 2 of anything in a blue for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, you scry 2.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
that's for 3 mana, that's great.
Yeah, but hang on. My question is, why does the blue impetus give more power toughness than the white impetus?
I don't know.
Because the white one is giving it to multiple creatures. Duh.
Well,
Yeah, it's spread out, doy.
Yeah, so the white one's giving the most.
It seems pretty medium.
Well, just go to, you know what? Why are you asking us? Go talk to Gavin Verhey. He's the man you want.
Yeah, get him. All right, I've got the most difficult to pronounce card in the set.
It's Gigantotherium.
Gigantotherium. All right, this is a Ravenous Gigantotherium.
There you go.
So for 5 green, we get a 3/3 beast, good rate, with Devour 3. So Devour 3, for those of you that don't know, basically, as it enters the battlefield, you sacrifice any number of creatures, and it enters with 3 times that many +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever this creature enters the battlefield, it deals X damage divided as you choose among up to X target creatures, where X is its power. Each of those creatures deal damage equal to their power to this creature.
It's really nice to see Devour making a comeback. I do like this mechanic, and this card could really do a ton of work in terms of removing creatures when it ETBs. Like, it could almost be a pseudo board wipe on, in certain board states.
Yeah, or at least some like above rate targeted removal.
Yeah.
Because Devour 3 is actually really strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a thick boy.
Yeah, 2 creatures. This is a 9/9. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that then it actually is a good rate.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Shiny Impetus, which we already talked about. So we're going to move right on to Twinning Staff, which is 3 mana for an artifact. If you would copy a spell 1 or more times instead of copy it that many times plus an additional time, you may choose new targets for the additional copy. And you can pay 7 to tap it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this seems like really good, and it also works really well with the face commander of this deck.
Yeah.
Because you're getting an additional copy.
I really like this card.
Oh yeah, and it has so many applications across the entire format. Like, this card is just going to be an all-star in the decks that want to have it, even if those decks don't want to sink 7 mana into it. Just to have that static ability is great.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I love copying spells, and this just like really goes off.
Oh yeah. So let's move on to the new cards that are in this deck that were printed in Ikoria.
And the first one there is going to be Channeled Force. This is 2 of anything, a blue and a red for an instant. As an additional cost to cast the spell, discard X cards. Target player discards X cards. Channeled Force deals X damage to up to 1 target creature or planeswalker.
You mean target player draws X cards?
Draws, sorry.
Yeah. If nothing else, this is a great way to sort of sift through your deck, and it's a fine removal spell.
Yeah, it's like a big rummaging spell that can deal damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's kind of interesting that so far most of the cards we talked about in our set review haven't been in these commander decks. It's kind of just an interesting coinky dink.
Well, it's because the cards they threw in here aren't
good. Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Got him.
All right.
Deal with it, Gavin Verhey.
Especially this next one.
That's your
What?
animosity towards magic staff.
It's just one guy. Oh, I guess I was also talking about Mark Rosewater, but that's more about Roseanne than anything.
All right, next up we've got Clash of Titans. For 3 red, we've got an instant that says target creature fights another target creature. So notably, it doesn't have to be something you control. You can just pit somebody's opponent or somebody's creature against another person's creature and have at her.
Just play Wrath of God for 4 mana.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to deal with the problem, that's
No, I'm
better
kidding.
rate.
But getting rid of 2 creatures your opponents control for 5 mana seems pretty good at instant speed.
I mean, more often than not, you're probably going to have it remove 1 creature and the other creature stick around, whichever is, stronger. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I know that.
We
You might get lucky.
But we've seen similar effects like this in the past, and they've never really caught on. So,
Hey, you know what?
No, I like this card's trash.
It's better than Hate Mirage.
that's true, and it is an instant, so that works with the commander.
Hate Mirage is garbage. Next up, we have Primal Empathy. It's 1, a green, and a blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card if you control a creature with the greatest power among creatures and on the battlefield. Otherwise, put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control. So this could draw you some cards, but it seems really slow. It seems better and limited.
It reminds me of like Colossal Majesty, which is a similar effect. Like you have to have a creature with power 4 or greater,
right,
to draw a card at the beginning of your upkeep. And I mean, that's not even that great either. So this
it
seems like a little bit more variance.
This would be so much better if it was an end step trigger as opposed to an upkeep trigger.
Yep. I'd agree.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a stupid thing to say, but I mean,
if you don't have the biggest creature, you get a 1/1 counter on your creature.
So you're working your way towards the biggest creature. It does all the work itself.
Holy crap, guys! Gives a counter to something. Wow.
Yeah, let's move on to the Symbiotic Wisdom deck. Right. I don't know why I have Wisdom here. I said that earlier and nobody corrected me.
There's a Timeless Wisdom.
No. Hey, don't talk to me about Timeless Wisdom. I know all about it, okay?
All right, to kick it off, the main flagship commander for this deck is Kathril, Aspect Warper. It's 2 of anything, and then white, black, green. 3/3 Nightmare Insect. When Kathril, Aspect Warper enters the battlefield, put a flying counter on any creature you control. If a creature card in your graveyard has flying, repeat this process for first strike, double strike, death touch, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, vigilance, and then put a 1/1 counter on Kathril for each counter.
It kind of reminds me of Necrotic Ooze.
Yeah.
But Necrotic Ooze is concerned with activated abilities.
It's kind of reminiscent of what was it? There was the Sultai commander from last year's product.
Oh, the vampire.
Yeah, the one that cared about killing or things dying and exiling it and putting a blood counter on it.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember.
It feels kind of like that, except this one feels a lot more flexible because you can kind of distribute those counters however you choose.
Right.
Like if you want to build a big Voltron Kathril, you could do that, or you could spread it out among your swarm.
Nice flavor there, Riley saying swarm. I like that.
You're welcome.
He's like, I didn't do it for you.
All right. Well, next up we have Tyam, Luminous Enigma. So for 1 and Abzan, white, black, green, you get a legendary creature, Nightmare Beast. It's a 3/3, and each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional vigilance counter on it. And you can pay 3, remove 3 counters from among creatures you control, and put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then return a permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard onto the battlefield. I think this guy seems pretty fun. I like the idea of it not being a tap ability, so you can repeatedly activate it. Yeah, you could probably do something spicy with small creatures that come in with counters and keep going.
Absolutely, yeah, totally. No, there's a lot of avenues to take here, and a lot of avenues where you don't have to rely on Tyam to get the counters onto creatures you control.
Yeah.
Enigma.
It's a fun word, yeah.
Hey, check out this word, guys.
Hey, do you like words? Next up, we have the partner with commanders from this deck. We have Nikara, Lair Scavenger, and she is 2 and a black for a legendary creature, human cleric. She's a 2/2. She partners with Yannick, Scavenger Sentinel. She has Menace, and whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had 1 or more counters on it, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. And Yannick, Scavenger Sentinel, is 2, a green and a white for a legendary creature, Hyena Beast, 3/3, partners with Nikara. Yannick has Vigilance. When Yannick, Scavenger Sentinel, enters the battlefield, exile another creature you control until Yannick leaves the battlefield. When you do, distribute X 1/1 counters among any number of target creatures, where X is the exiled creature's power. So what I really like about these two, especially Nikara, is, both of them are concerned with creatures leaving the battlefield, not dying. So with Yannick's ability, you can also get the ETB value off of the creature you decide to exile. Another thing to remember about these two is that you can exile a token creature that you control, which is great because Yannick's colors are white and green, being the colors that create tokens easily.
Yeah. Yeah, so build like an aristocrat or blink style deck.
Mm-hmm.
Be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really like Yannick because it's like if you do take a creature that has like an ETB effect on it, you're gonna get that effect again at some point, because when Yannick finally leaves the battlefield, the creature that's exiled under him will be coming back. So
yeah, that's kind of loser talk though, because you kind of want Yannick to stay on the battlefield so that you can win the game. You don't want your commander leaving the battlefield. You're like, every card I cast is gonna lead me towards winning this game. I'm not a loser.
That's so ambitious, Kevin.
Yeah, and which is funny because I lose most of the games that I play with you guys, so I don't know where I get my confidence from.
Next up, we have the Avenging Hunt Bonder.
This card's super cool.
So 3 of anything, 2 white. It's cool. Yeah, it's a good one. So we have a 3/3 human warrior of double strike. Whenever Avenging Hunt Bonder attacks, put a double strike counter on another target attacking creature. So that's super sweet.
Yeah, this could really get out of hand if you let it stay on the battlefield for, even 2 or 3 combat steps, because you're just double strike is nuts.
Yeah. Oh, don't you know?
Yeah, it's like Canlander.
So, of course, they've slotted Bonder's Ornament in here, but we've already covered that. So, talking about Cartographer's Hawk. So, for 1 and a white, you get a bird. It's a 2/1 flyer. And whenever Cartographer's Hawk deals combat damage to a player who controls more lands than you, return it to its owner's hand. If you do, you may search your library for a Plains card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library.
The only thing I like about this card is that you can search for a Plains card. It doesn't say basic.
Yeah, and I mean,
I don't know what this card is doing in this deck.
It just okay. Well, white definitely needs help wherever it can get it.
Yeah, but this deck has green in it though.
Yeah, but they had to throw white a bone somehow, right?
Yeah, but there's still other decks in this. Like, this could have been in the deck. This could have been in the Jeskai deck.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been in the Jeskai deck as well. It doesn't need to go in, like...
Yeah.
Exactly. It doesn't fit in this deck at all.
But overall, it's super slow. There's so many hoops you have to jump through just to get a freaking rampant growth.
Absolutely. And like this is kind of what Eric, what you just said about this should be in one of the other decks. I agree with you, but maybe what we should add to our league is that like we can do trades and it doesn't count towards the slots.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, at least they're thinking of white and how they can help white, but this is really slow.
It's so slow,
and like really situational. Just imagine like having this out on the battlefield for a full cycle of a turn, and it just dying right before your turn, before you can even get a chance to attack.
I know.
Never mind hit a player. You have to hit a player with it.
Yeah, it's not an attack trigger. Imagine drawing this on turn 10. Like, oh my
Oh my God.
goodness.
Flyer. Yeah, get out of
Get
here.
out of here. Okay.
Get
Next
gone.
up, we have Daring Fiend Bonder. It's 3 and a black for a human warlock with haste. It's a 5/1. Daring Fiend Bonder attacks each combat if able, and you can pay 1 and a black to exile Daring Fiend Bonder from your graveyard. Put an indestructible counter on target creature. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. What are they doing with this card?
Well, yeah, I mean, I like the ability being used from the graveyard.
Of course.
Obviously, a 5/1 body is not meant to stay around very long.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. I'm also surprised that they made that only when you cast a sorcery. It's just a really good ability if it would be instant.
Yeah, it would be playable if it was instant. I mean, swinging in for 5, like, if somebody just has a planeswalker up, like that's essentially a removal spell, but how often is that going to happen? I guess maybe after a board wipe, you could drop this and swing into somebody's planeswalker after somebody's like Wrathed or Day of Judgment with something like that, Damnation. But yeah, the fact that it's at sorcery speed just seems so just weak.
I'm gonna put my indestructible counter on this creature. All right,
yeah, I'm gonna use like dire tactics on it, just exile the thing and then wipe the board.
Yeah, you loser.
Do better.
Loser. All right, next up is a land. It's Nesting Grounds. You can tap it for a colorless. You can pay 1 and tap it. Move a counter from target permanent you control onto another target permanent. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast it.
I'm sensing a theme here. I know for me personally, I've always wanted to be able to move a loyalty counter onto one of my enchantments.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Just to have that experience, just so I could say that I've done it.
Make enchantments loyal again.
Achievement unlocked.
No, but seriously, this is a really cool land, and having these, and it's not just permanents that it's moving a counter from target permanent to a permanent, another target permanent that you control, but so you can, it's not just your permanents, which is just a nice bit of flexibility there.
Yeah, it has to be moved from something you control onto another target permanent. So you could put a -1/-1 counter on somebody else's creature.
Yeah, or you could make some deals like, hey, I can move a loyalty counter onto your Nissa Vital Force, and you can ultimate her next turn. What do you think? Because I can only do it at sorcery speed. Because if I could do it at instant speed, that would be too powerful.
Oh, it'd just be too. Oh,
it'd break the game. This would see CEDH play across. This would be in Sushi Hulk.
All right, next up, we've got Netherborn Altar. For 1 and a black, you get an artifact that has tap, put a soul counter on Netherborn Altar, and you get to put your commander into your hand from the command zone, then lose 3 life for each soul counter on Netherborn Altar. So, first activation, you're losing 3 life, and so on and so forth.
This might be my favorite card from this commander set. It's black, so that does limit which decks you can put it in, but it's like a repeatable command beacon, and you don't have to sacrifice a land. Also, check me out on Instagram at command beacon. But what's really cool about this card is that in the early game, or I guess more so, in the early game, you're probably more inclined to pay the life if you're still close to your life total that you started with. But in the late game, when you have more mana, you might be more inclined to just pay the mana. But that it gives you that flexibility, and it's only 2 mana. I think I might slot this card into every black deck that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're building,
I think it's just that good.
Like a Phage the Untouchable deck, that's another way to get Phage into your hand, so you don't die.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, because this card, I don't know what it is on pre-order right now. I haven't really checked, other than to buy Arcane Signets. But Command Beacon is I don't know. Last time I checked, it was like a $20 card, and that was 2 years ago. So I don't know. Yeah. Let's check. What is Command Beacon? It's only been printed once in Commander 2015. So Commander 2015 is $19.99 on Card Kingdom, and the Judge foil is $29.99. So that's not much. I'd pay the extra $10 for a foil.
There you go.
Sure.
Whew. Don't be like me, kids. Next up, we have Obscuring Haze. It's 2 and a green for an instant. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. You may put this spell onto the battlefield. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures your opponents control. So this is, of course, another one from this C20 cycle of free spells. But what I really like is that it specifies creatures your opponents controlled. So this could really create a favorable combat scenario, whether you're attacking or blocking. And in some cases, it could create like a surgical board wipe for one player, especially if it appears that you're tapped out, which is really when you want to play these cards to like surprise. I got it.
Yeah, I definitely like the one-sided fog effect. Just watch out, because if they're running a questing beast along with the other 20,000 words on that card, it prevents damage from being prevented. So
that's right. Oh no, we don't want that.
All right, next up we have Selective Adaptation. So it's 4 of anything for 2 green. Sorcery, reveal the top 7 cards of your library. Choose from among them a card with a flying.
With a flying.
A card with a flying. A card with first strike. And so on for double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, and
I like
vigilance.
how it says and so on.
And so on.
Put one of the chosen cards onto the battlefield, the other chosen cards into your hand, and the rest into your grave.
This is a really high payoff for keywords, or this is a keyword payoff with a really high ceiling. But I'm not usually a fan of cards like this just because of how high variance they are. And I know you could be in a situation where you know what the top several cards of your library are, but still, that's just like that's an additional part that you need to make this be as good as it can be.
They should have doubled it and you would reveal like the top 14 cards of your library.
For 6 mana, I think so. And so on.
And so on.
All right. Up next, we've got Slippery Bog Bonder.
That's a fun one, too.
Yeah, I got to get slippery. For 3 and a green, you've got a human druid, 3/3, with flash, hexproof, and when Slippery Bog Bonder enters the battlefield, put a hexproof counter on target creature, then move any number of counters from among creatures you control onto that creature. That's pretty spicy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the flash. I like the hexproof. I like it all. I like the ability to be able to protect a creature at instant speed and then make it big.
Big boy.
Just make it a thick boy.
Yeah, I think this is a really cool creature.
Yeah,
I think this goes into a lot of green decks, actually.
Oh, yeah, protection's never bad. And yeah.
And so on.
And so on.
Next up, we have Vitality Hunter, which is 3 and a white for a 3/4 nightmare. A white nightmare. Ooh, I wonder how many of those there are. It has lifelink, and you can pay X white for Monstrosity X. So in case you don't know, if this creature isn't monstrous, put X/1/1 counters on it, and it becomes monstrous. When Vitality Hunter becomes monstrous, put a lifelink counter on it. When Vitality Hunter becomes monstrous, put a lifelink counter on each of up to X target creatures, and so on.
Yeah, so there are 2 white nightmares in Magic's history, and they're both from Ikoria. One's from the core set, and one's from Commander set here.
Well, nightmares are confusing, and this is a confusing set, so that makes sense to me.
Yeah, one's a squirrel, though.
It's true.
Blind squirrel.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I guess, like, giving your whole team lifelink.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, if you have a board full of creatures, or you have some beefy creatures that you can put lifelink counters on to gain some life and get you back into the game, I could see this doing some work.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the cards printed in Ikoria. And to start off, we have Blood Curdle. So 3 of anything in a black, destroy target creature, put a menace counter on a creature you control.
Meh.
That's fine.
That's an instant. That's nice.
Yeah,
It's an instant.
this seems good in draft, but like for Commander, there's way better options.
Of course there are.
Oh, yeah.
All right, next up we've got Titanith Rex.
Rawr.
Hey, this is one of the Godzilla cards.
Nice.
So for 7 green, you get a dinosaur beast. It's an 11/11 trample with cycling for 1 and a green. And whenever you cycle Titanith Rex, put a trample counter on target creature you control.
Yeah,
I like this guy.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's a thick boy.
Yeah, just a big old trampler.
Yeah, I like the ability to cycle him and maybe, recur him later.
Yeah, which is great because the next card is Unbreakable Bond, which you could use to recur Titanith Rex after you've cycled him. And Unbreakable Bond is 4 and a black for a sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a lifelink counter on it.
Sorry, I'm just looking at that tongue on whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Look at his tongue.
It's slippery looking.
Yeah. Again, I think it goes along with that common removal spell. Like there are way better recursive spells. Like even Victimize would be better than this.
Let's go on to the Void Beckoner. 6 of anything and 2 black for a 8/8 Nightmare Horror. It's got Death Touch, and you can cycle it for 2 of anything and a black. When you cycle Void Beckoner, put a Death Touch counter on target creature you can.
This is another great target for Unbreakable Bond.
There you go.
And this is the card that has the alt art Godzilla that they changed and is creating sort of like a weird false collectability for the card that says Corona Blast, which we talked about last week. And Wizards thought they had to be woke, and we can't be true to Godzilla lore because of what's happening in the world right now.
Sad.
So weird.
It's very strange, yeah, but par for the course for them, I think.
But yeah, cycling this away to give something Death Touch is pretty cool. But also, like, having an 8/8 with Death Touch is like, what's the point?
Right. Yeah, at that point, I'd rather have it have trample.
I mean, with Void Beckoner and Titanith Rex, I like the idea that you're cycling these guys with keywords into your graveyard, and then your commander sees those in the graveyard and distributes those counters among creatures you control.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems good. Well, that's where we're going to pick back up next time with the 2 remaining decks in this set, Timeless Wisdom and Enhanced Evolution. We'd like to thank our lovely editor Ainsley for her behind-the-scenes work that she does each and every week. You can find me on Instagram at Command Beacon. Riley, where can folks find you on the social medias?
Yeah, you can find me at Twitter at Riles Dayton, and you can find me on Instagram at Riley_Dayton.
Eric's working on it. Although I know he has an Instagram account. he's a slithery little snake.
I do, but I definitely want to use something different. So,
and of course, as always, before you hop to the next episode, please check out all the links in the show notes. And thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoy.
Thank you. Wash your hands.
Yeah, wash your damn hands, for fuck's sakes.
Turn 1 Soul Ring.
Oh, jeez, my cat's knocking all of my shit over my desk. Miri, you want to be on a podcast? Yeah? You want to be on a podcast? Yeah?